What is up, guys? We are back. It's getting closer to football season. We are about a week away from the first Showdown Slate on Draftkings, the first game of the year. If it's your first time in the channel here, welcome. We are talking Showdown as usual, and this is a way too early breakdown of next week's game. Bills going into LA against the Rams. Should be a great matchup. And for this show, we're just going to talk generally speaking. We're going to look at the prices. We're going to kind of talk about things that we usually do. It's going to be a quicker version of our full show that we'll be doing next week, closer to lock time. Probably we'll come out with a show on Wednesday next week. Anyways, we're going to get into this pretty quick. But first, Ellie Hernandez. What's up, man? It's been a while since we've done a show. We're probably going to be a little rusty, so bear with us. But what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We way off topic, but we finally got our yard finished in our new house. So just been enjoying mowing the lawn this summer. I never thought I'd be one of those kind of lawn care dads, but when you got your own, you're like you're out there. I was yelling at my son like, "Hey, if you're gonna pull the weeds, you're gonna do them right now." So, anyways, that's how my summer's been, and I'm just excited to get into this really early look for gambling.
I'm excited, man.
DFS.
I'm really excited because we actually get to see salaries and we get to start building lineups and playing around. I'm really looking forward to it, man. So look,
I've just done too much best ball, man. Like I need to start playing some regular DFS where I can win something that night, you know.
I think best ball is like the ultimate way of playing fantasy because you just get every sort. You get a little bit of season long. You still get that sort of tournament feel. You could still stack. You could still do some crazy picks at the end of the draft. I love it. I do love Showdown though, man, because I just don't like as much doing main slate. It's just so, in my opinion, it's just really freaking hard. Like,
absolutely.
In my opinion, there's just not a whole lot of edge there. But I think Showdown, there still is an edge, and I think that's why we're doing these shows. We're just normal guys with day jobs that love DFS, and we're doing the research for you guys. We don't know everything. We're not pro players. We're probably just normal guys like you, but we're doing all the research for you guys. So if you don't have time to break this stuff down, you can just watch us or listen to us on all podcast platforms. So Ellie, speaking of Showdown, let's talk a little bit about some generic strategy and just a refresher because it's been a minute since we've all played, NFL DFS, specifically Showdown. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you have and some of the things that we talk about every day on the show.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you brought that back up because it is something we want to revisit getting this close into it. And NFL Showdown's a little bit different than some of the other sports. So I think really the key thing to start with is really just understand your general expectations, what you think is going to happen in that game. We like to start with the Vegas totals, kind of understand the spread, see what team is favored and how many points they're expected to get, and so on. And then what we think is going to happen. That's where we start throwing in our own personal opinion, any research that we've been done, any beat reporters that have leaked any information. That's where we start putting your own personal edge in there, and then compare your thoughts against what everybody else is thinking, and kind of use that as an idea to start your roster construction. And then from there, just work to build your chalkiest and optimal lineups. Just hand build it if you need to, and just get an idea of what everybody else is going to be playing. From there, it's as simple as just kind of identifying different areas you can pivot off of. If you hand built a 3-3 where you got two quarterbacks and 4 wide receivers or whatever, then it's a good chance that Joe Blow and Johnny Smith are all doing the same thing. So that's where you can start to pivot off of your normal plays. And then really the last thing that we want to remember for Showdown is don't be afraid to get weird. If you like a $200 guy, it's better than forcing in a $3,600 guy that you really need to get those 8 to 12 points to pay off. But a zero from a $200 player that could see some field time, it's not something that it really worries me. But also understand how that impacts your roster construction, right? If everybody's playing the $200 Jeff Wilson, you have to find another place to get different. So that's really kind of just the high level points that I wanted to make before we got into it.
And a lot of times, diving deep, we all know that Josh Allen's amazing. We all know that Cooper Kupp is probably the best play at captain, obviously. But where I really love Showdown is getting to that fourth string wide receiver that's getting reps that week, is looking good in camp or whatever it is, that maybe can score a touchdown at $800 and can absolutely break the slate. Like, that's what I love about this. When you're playing, season long, or you're playing regular main slate DFS for NFL, there's really not that opportunity to dive deep into those backups that you typically would. You're just looking at stacks, and you're trying to mix some other high-owned guys in there. But in this case, for example, like if we're going to go with Cooper Kupp at captain, I mean, you're going to have to get weird. Depending on obviously the contest that you're in. If you're in the big contest, or if you're in one of these bigger contests, you can't just put Cooper Kupp in and put all the best players in, all the higher owned players. You're going to have to put a $200 guy, $200 1% owned guy in there, in theory. So unless you're going to split first place with hundreds of other people, which happens all the time. And I personally, this is just me because I'm maybe a degenerate, but I would rather take that first place by myself, obviously, but I'd rather risk losing it all and getting last place for the chance to get that first place by myself. All right. So let's just I teased it earlier. Let's get into this particular game. Buffalo going into LA. This is going to be a great matchup. Buffalo is actually road favorites, and this is a decent over-under. 2.5 point favorites for Buffalo. The ownership is right around even. And look, this is too early to even care about ownership at this point, obviously, but you kind of gauge where everybody's at. So thoughts on this, thoughts on Buffalo going on the road against the world champions and being favored. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too opposed to that idea. I think Buffalo is going to be looking to come out strong. LA is still dealing with a little bit of some weird injury stuff. Like, they got a lot of guys coming back from pretty serious injuries, so I can see them definitely easing into the season. And I don't even know if the Rams have played any starters this offseason or in preseason. I would assume that Buffalo didn't either, but I just feel like the chemistry is probably going to be off for LA a little bit more. So I don't mind looking at Buffalo as the favorite here.
I mean, look, I'm a Cardinals fan, so I'm a Rams hater. I have friends that are Rams fans. I lived in LA for years, and there's a lot of Rams fans, obviously, that are my friends. But I just don't think they're going to have it this year. They won the championship. They did their thing. I think Buffalo can absolutely come in and spank them in this game, especially considering how their season ended last year. They've been waking up every night thinking about that loss to the Chiefs, and it's not sitting well with them. And the Rams have been partying. They're champions. It's hard to kind of keep that drive going when you've won a championship. I honestly think the Rams can come in second place in the NFC West, maybe third if the Cardinals actually are decent this year. Anyways, we'll save our predictions for later. But let's talk about injuries here real quick. So obviously it's early, but there are there's some injuries news to talk about. I mean, really the only people that we could talk about here are probably Van Jefferson. I guess he's listed as questionable. And then you have Isaiah McKenzie, who's listed as questionable, and Matt Stafford is on the injury list. I think he's probable / he was questionable. I'm seeing different conflicting reports, but he's going to play. I mean, come on, we know he's going to play. But Van Jefferson, Isaiah McKenzie, and we'll keep an eye out on anybody else. But Isaiah McKenzie, that's kind of big news because there's, we're seeing Buffalo. We're seeing a little bit of changes in as far as, there's no Emmanuel Sanders anymore. Gabe Davis had a huge game last year, and we've always loved Gabe Davis, but now he's super hyped up. And hey, he's a good player. I just think he's getting a little bit too much love off of one single game. And then you have Isaiah McKenzie, who is a good player. And if he's playing at his price tag, I'm going to have a lot of him. So quickly, I just want to talk about some of the cuts that we've seen for these teams so we kind of get an idea where these depth charts are going. For the Bills, they had a decent amount of cuts. So Tavon Austin got cut last week. O.J. Howard got cut today, which is kind of big news for the tight end position. Duke Johnson gone, and Matt Barkley, the backup punter, he got cut. That doesn't really matter, but to me the biggest news here is Duke Johnson, because that really that kind of muddied the water. It was already, Devin Singletary stepped up at the second half of last year, but the start of that year, he was not the guy.
Right.
Him and Zach Moss were splitting. We thought Zach Moss might be the number one. They were back and forth, and he finally cemented himself as the number one. But now we're kind of getting a more clear picture with Duke Johnson being released. You got Singletary, you got the rookie James Cook, and you got Zach Moss. It looks like James Cook could cut into some of that Singletary usage. When it comes to the Rams, there was really no news as far as roster cutdowns. On FC, I'm seeing that Kendall Blanton is still on the Rams, even though he was on another team and then he got cut. So there's no reason to really talk about that. But were you seeing anything else that jumped out to you when it comes to rosters?
Yeah, so there is one thing I do want to point out. Over the next day or so, look at the updated depth charts because several teams are carrying a lot more running backs than I would expect them to. Right now, there's 4 still listed active for the Rams, right? You got Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, some dude named Kieran Williams, and then Jake Funk, right? And I don't believe any of those guys were cut today. So if you're carrying 4 backs, that's something we'll get into on the breakdown, right? I don't necessarily know what that means for Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson, who are both coming back from injuries.
Yeah.
And the Niners, they kept 5. The Cardinals, they have 5 running backs active. So it's very interesting to see what we're doing here, and just pay attention to that because I think it is going to matter.
All right, let's get into this breakdown. It's going to be quicker than usual because we're just going to touch on some of these positions and not get too deep into it.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about our fades. We'll talk a little bit about some of the guys that we like at captain. We'll build lineups and we'll give our final thoughts. By the way, guys, hit subscribe for us. We really appreciate it. It just takes one button click. It really helps us out. It really encourages us to keep doing these shows. We're doing a show for every single island game this year. So you're going to get a lot of shows. You can get potentially 3 or more shows out of us per week. So help us out with that follow. We appreciate it. Let's get into it. Break it down. All right. So obviously we got Matt Stafford at 10.8K. Josh Allen's 12K. I mean, it's going to be hard to get both quarterbacks here with this. And I think Matt Stafford, his ownership is going to collapse, in my opinion, because you're going to want Josh Allen and you're going to want Cooper Kupp. You're going to want Stephon Diggs. Like, you're going to have to make some serious decisions here. And I would rather fade Matt Stafford out of all those guys. So, look, you got to go with Josh Allen, a guy who has insanely high upside. Matt Stafford, remember last year, first half of that season, man, he was a pick machine. He was not looking great. He wasn't looking terrible, but he was turning the ball over quite a bit. And if you told me like week 4, week 5 or whatever that he was going to be the Super Bowl champion, I'd be like, wow, that's a big turnaround. Not to say that Stafford is going to have a similar start, but I would rather go with a guy like Josh Allen all day over Stafford. So talk to me about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just real simple. It's going to be one of those slates where you're going to have to do one or the other. So I think it really goes back to just minding what game script you're building with. If you're doing a 4-2, and your 4 offense is coming from Josh Allen or the Bills, then you need to have Josh Allen in that lineup. So
Yeah.
if your 2 is coming from the Rams, then you can do something like Cam Akers and Allen Robinson. But I Josh Allen just has the rushing upside. I think he's going to come out pissed off and ready to show that he should probably be an MVP frontrunner or at least top 3 this season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't know how you get away from that. And for $1,400, it's not even that, or $1,600, it's not that much of a savings. Or it's not even that. It was $1,200. Sorry.
$1,200. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not even saving really that much to make it worth going down to Stafford. I'll probably have split exposure, but I prefer Josh Allen if you're running a bullet or something.
All right, so let's go to running back. Let's start with the Rams, and Ellie, I'll have you take over. I'm gonna have you cover running back.
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting situation, right? I think Cam Akers is still coming back from his injury. We saw him in the playoffs last year, and he did okay, but there's no reason for the Rams to start him off running hard. I really think that this is an interesting week to be paying attention to the 4,800 Darrell Henderson. I think that there's a good chance that he could get some of those tough yardage options if he's healthy and ready for the game. So I think you can play him. He does get involved in the pass game a little bit, and we've seen him put up pretty decent points. So even if it's closer to a 40 60 40 split at his price, I really don't mind getting a little bit of exposure to him. And then again, see what the final roster is. Let's find out who's going to be active for that game. There might be cheap guys here that we're willing to look at because both these guys are up in the air as far as injury designation.
Look, Cam Akers, I'll actually disagree with you. I thought he did absolutely terrible when he came back. Now, look, he came back from a major injury, and it's tough. He came back way earlier than he should have. But everyone was on his balls, man. And I mean, look at some of these numbers here. You got 13 carries, 24 carries, 48 yards. I mean, he's averaging under 4 yards per carry in every one of these games now, and no touchdowns. Receiving wise, he did okay in that Arizona game. He looked good in that Arizona game. I will say this, but that's the thing. 17 carries
Everyone
for
looks
55
good
yards.
Arizona.
Yeah, that's true. 17 carries for 55 yards. And yeah, he did have a 40-yard reception. I'm just not buying it at 8K. We're not going to be able to afford a guy at 8K when we're going to have to, in my opinion, you're going to have to like go middle of the road for captain and jam in all the studs. And hopefully you get like a sub 5% owned captain. But in this particular game, I just don't think Cam Akers is going to fit in much for me at all. And if Cam Akers comes out and scores 2 touchdowns or something and breaks the slate, I'll take it. That's fine. I haven't seen anything from him to believe that he's going to do it. There's no reason for him to be at 8K either. I'd rather go with Darrell Henderson at 4,800 because he's going to get less than half the ownership. And there's no reason that Henderson can't catch a couple balls out of the backfield and jam one in randomly. All right, you done with these guys? You want to move on to the other side?
Yep. Let's hop over to Buffalo.
So Buffalo, Ellie, go ahead. Actually, let me break down the salaries here. So Devin Singletary at 7K, James Cook, the rookie, at 2,800, and Zach Moss 3K. Take it away, Ellie.
I mean, look, I'm going to keep it real simple for both sides of the running game here. I just really don't have that much interest in it. I think there's better priced receivers and tight ends with limited opposing or limited opportunities to go to other players, right? Devin Singletary is still a little bit too expensive for me at 7K. I don't think that he's going to pay off. They're going to want to get their rookie involved in the game a little bit, and we know that Zach Moss can get some touches. I see Taiwan Jones is even listed as the 4th running back. If they're carrying 4 active running backs into this game, I really just I'm not interested in too many of these guys. I mean, maybe if Taiwan Jones is going to get 5 carries at $200, then he might be our punt option that we get a little bit of exposure to. But I'm not interested in these guys. I mean, James Cook at 2,800, he's interesting. If he's Dalvin's brother.
Yeah.
I mean, if they
he's
have
half the player of Dalvin.
yeah, then I'll have some exposure just because that family's freakishly talented. So other than that, I'm not interested all that much.
The interesting thing, like I brought up in the intro, is Devin Singletary was not the guy until way later in the season. We did plenty of Buffalo shows last year, and it was always, is it Devin Singletary or is it Zach Moss? And they were usually priced around the same. They'd go back and forth between who got more carries and who got more snaps. And finally, Singletary showed that he was the number 1 guy. Are they fully committed to him 100%? I don't think so. They're going to pop in whoever they think is best. You got a guy like James Cook who's dynamic. He can be a 3-down back. I mean, honestly, this dude can catch balls out of the backfield. And I don't know a whole lot about him. I did watch a couple series in that preseason game. He looks fast. He looks good. So I'm more likely to get a guy at 2,800. Zach Moss won't even be in my player pool most likely because who knows if he's even going to see the field. I don't know. But James Cook is very interesting to me at 2,800. But you're right. I don't think the running game is very, very interesting to me in this game. I think they're going to come out slinging the ball quite a bit. Let's move over to wide receivers. All right, so for the Bills, we got Stephon Diggs at 9K. You got Gabe Davis at 7,200. Jamison Crowder at 5K. Isaiah McKenzie, 2,400. And you have this Shakir guy who, I don't know if he's even going to see the field, but there is a little bit of an ownership projection on him, and he's $200, so it's worth talking about. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is the man. We're talking about a top 3 wide receiver. In most cases, this guy, you're going to want a lot of him. I think putting him at captain is obviously a great option. Gabe Davis is always, he scares me. I mean, do you agree with me on this? Because we always had to talk him up throughout the season quite a bit. And we got lucky a few times playing him. You know, his numbers are halfway decent, you know, but you start looking weeks 1 through 10, he's pretty inconsistent. And maybe he's gained, maybe he's gained some trust from the coaching staff. At 7,200, I don't know a whole lot. I don't know if I'm gonna have a whole lot of him, and I don't think he's gonna be super high owned, but I think he's coming in around 30% owned. That
I
seems a
think
little
you can just
high.
make your life. Yeah, I think you can just make life easier and kind of just make a couple lineups with him and captain, and maybe get a little bit weird off that. I think he's going to be honestly. I don't think he's too terribly priced. I think he's a fine play, and I would probably just get normal amount of exposure to a 7,200 wide receiver number two, but I think there's a lot of hype just surrounding him in general. I think that's going to inflate his ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, we all remember Kevin Curtis had 4 touchdowns in a game, right? It was the same week Ronnie Brown had like 17 with 3 passing in like 2007. But does anybody remember what happened to Kevin Curtis after that season?
No.
No, because I mean, he had a great season. It happens, but yeah, to be a 5'9", 142-pound wide receiver, number 2 wide receiver in the NFL, you're going to be guarded a little bit differently than playing fourth string or running out of the slot. So I don't know that Jamison Crowder or Isaiah McKenzie are those guys that are going to take a lot of pressure off of Gabriel Davis. So 70 to 200, I think you just play a couple lineups to captain and then do what you need to normally.
So the interest.
But I do like Khalil. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Oh, sorry. I was going to just bring up Crowder and McKenzie. Now, the interesting thing about these two guys, and based on what I'm seeing, is McKenzie's a starting slot, and Crowder
Yeah.
is behind him. So I don't know how much we're going to see Crowder. Now, Crowder was incredible. We know what he's capable of. I mean, unfortunately for him, he played for the Jets, kind of ruined everything for him. Hopefully, he can get his career back in motion here with a really good team. But as of now, McKenzie was drafted by Buffalo. They've been bringing him up slowly. Last year, he was a rookie. I'm almost positive. He's the guy I would go with here. I don't know that I'm going to get any Jamison Crowder at 5K because he's not the guy getting the snaps. Talk to me about Shakir.
Yeah, man, I like him. I just don't see much depth on this roster at wide receiver, and they like to air the ball out, man. If he's really going to come off and run, 10-15% of the routes, he's going to get targeted a couple times. And $200, I really don't see any reason why not to get some exposure. I mean, let's put this in a little bit like it's a size comparison, right? He's 6', 190, so he's got a little bit more of a build. If Jamison Crowder doesn't get on the field, then he's probably their next physical receiver. Otherwise, you have Stephon Diggs and like I don't even have anything smart ass to say. A bunch of just random small guys running around the field, and I don't know how long that's going to work. In my opinion, but I like Khalil Shakir. He's gonna get some play, maybe even get some special teams. Right, you get a kick return for a touchdown, then $200. That guy's an immaculate play. You
Well,
don't need a bunch of lineups with him, but $200, why not?
I'm glad you brought that up because last season McKenzie got a lot of special teams play in, and also he got to run the ball quite a bit last year. But
Yes.
now they released Tavon Austin. So who's that number 1 guy? Is it Shakir? I honestly I wasn't watching kickoff returns in the preseason for Buffalo, but I'm assuming that one of these guys, McKenzie or Shakir, or one of these dudes is going to be getting that duty. And let's just say you're right. If Shakir is getting punt returns and kick returns at $200, it's worth, it might be worth it to throw him in a couple lineups at like 10% owned. All right, let's jump over to the Rams.
Yeah, he's been returning punts.
Has he? Okay. Let's jump over to the Rams. This is going to be interesting here. So we obviously got Cooper Kupp at 12.4K. He will he's going to be the most expensive guy on the slate in most cases, in most matchups. Now, Allen Robinson was freed from the prison that was Chicago. This guy's a bona fide top 10 wide receiver, in my opinion. And the fact that he was stuck on that team for so many years, just rotting away, it was criminal. I'm glad he's on a good team now. 6,200 for A-Rob. We don't know what he's capable of at this point in his career. I think he's still a top guy. But 6,200, I like a captain spot for him, man. He could come out and catch 2 touchdowns in this game. It wouldn't surprise me. We're missing OBJ now. We don't have OBJ. Van Jefferson is potentially injured. Van Jefferson is at 4,600. He's your deep route, home run ball guy. And then you got Ben Skowronek at 1,800. I don't even know if this guy will see the field. Every time I played him last year, he did absolutely diddly poo. He didn't do anything. So we got to go Cooper Kupp in most cases here. Most likely for me, it'll be in the flex, not at captain. But Allen Robinson is very appealing at that price tag.
Yeah, I don't even have anything to add here. I like Allen Robinson at 6,200. I think you can play both him and Cooper Kupp in the same lineup, fade Matt Stafford, and then just run it back with Josh Allen, whatever. I know that can be a little bit of risky, but at 6,200,
PPR.
it's not even it's not even that big of a deal. And I mean, what if he runs an end around? Like, he is getting involved in a creative offense. This isn't Matt Nagy anymore. Like, this is Sean McVay. He's going to get opportunities to score. So, and look at this. I mean, their depth at wide receiver isn't necessarily there. By carrying all those running backs, they're not necessarily going to be able to spread out as much as they want to. So they got to run them. I love Allen Robinson.
Tight end, we got Tyler Higbee, 5,600, and Bryson Hopkins now is that number 2. Let me see. Yeah, because Kendall Blanton was on the team. There's a lot of tight ends here.
They're only carrying the 2 tight ends, so this is exactly right. I love Higbee at 5,600, but Bryson Hopkins, if he's the only other tight end, $200. Like, we saw that if they're only carrying 4 wide receivers into this game, maybe they're going to start lining their tied up out. So
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Higbee scares me. He always does, because I tend to fade him quite a bit, because he's always priced in this mid-range where sometimes if you're going stars and scrubs type builds, you just no room for him. And sometimes you got to go to a kicker or something instead and save that salary. 5,600, we know he can score 2 touchdowns in a game. We know he can get targeted quite a bit. He didn't have the best of years last year, but there were times that he scared me, man. There was a couple games, he had this game against San Francisco where he scored 2 touchdowns. And let's see, Tampa Bay, he had a decent game. The years prior, he's had better seasons, but he scares me. He's not a guy that I want to fade, but I feel like he's going to just kind of get left behind because I don't have room for him. But you got to try to focus on getting some Higbee, especially like you said, their wide receiver depth is not as good as it has been in the past. All right, Buffalo tight ends. This should be quick. Dawson Knox, 6,800. And because they cut OJ Howard, now you got a guy like Tommy Sweeney, I believe, is the backup at 400. So thoughts here. Dawson Knox is one of these scary tight ends as well. He's not an elite tight end, but he could be an elite tight end this year.
Yeah, I think Dawson Knox is a little touchdown dependent, in my opinion. It sounds dumb as hell to say that because everybody is, but I feel like if he doesn't get that touchdown or 2, he really doesn't give you what you need. And at 6,800, I'd rather just play Allen Robinson. Tommy Sweeney at $400 though, that's fine.
All right, so let's talk about just the salaries here of the kickers and defense. You got Tyler Bass, 4K, Matt Gay, 3,800. Bills defense 4,200, Rams 3,600. We've said this before. I mean, in a game like this with a 52 total, I might avoid the defenses, and I hate playing kickers because you just don't even know if they're going to get an opportunity. But if I do anything, it'd be the Bills defense, because we know Stafford is prone to give up some turnovers. I mean, we've seen it happen before, and we've seen crazy things happen where, for 3 quarters, the opposing defense in a high total game is the optimal captain. We've seen that before. Right. So I'll sprinkle in Bills, but I won't play really any Rams defense, I don't think. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
All right, so let's just briefly talk about fades here. Hang on. Sorry, I'm trying to get my show in order here. Fades. All right, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. If you had to just kind of pick a guy or two that you, as of now, aren't super excited about, what do you think?
I'll go position. I'm just gonna stick with running backs right now, and then one of the quarterbacks. Right, like I'm just not too high in any of those necessarily, especially the running backs with Allen Robinson at 60, whatever he is. Right, it's just too cheap. I'd rather play him, and not worry about the diluted backfields.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Cam Akers until he proves me wrong, which this will probably be the week that he scores 3 touchdowns, but I might not have a lot of him. I'm wishing the guy the best, but he just hasn't proven to me that he can actually tear it up after that injury. So, captain here. Actually, here, you know what? Let's freaking play our sound.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
We're crowning their ass. As of now, for me, man, I mean, Allen Robinson is a good option for tournaments. He's in that price range at 6,200, which is nice. That allows you to kind of fit in three high price studs and then kind of mix in some lower end guys, but you don't have to punt necessarily. You don't have to put a $200 guy in, most likely. Obviously, I'm always going to be a huge fan. You know, the obvious guys are, you know, Josh Allen, Kupp, and Diggs. Those are the obvious highest owned guys. And then obviously Stafford after that. I might avoid a lot of those, but I think Diggs is the other favorite that I might go with. And when we build lineups here, maybe we can mess around with some popular captains. But what's your thought here at captain?
No, I'm with you. I still think A Rob is probably my favorite option. I don't mind a little bit of maybe Gabriel Davis just because he is priced nicely, and I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get to him in the flex. But we'll see when it gets the lineup built. But Stephon Diggs is also just really interesting. I need to see what his projected captain ownership is because at that price tag, I really do think that he'll probably be close to 18 to 20% owned at captain.
So as of now, he's around 13, 12, 14%. Which is,
That
you know,
seems
he's going to be the second highest owned captain, which is normal, but still,
yeah.
it means we're seeing some spread out ownership here. We're not getting one of these like Lamar Jackson, you know, or we're not getting a Josh Allen at 20% or Cooper Kupp at 20%. So it is spread out a little bit. And oops, sorry, I'll get that better. All right. So let's move on to the lineup build here. There's not a whole lot to do. Let's not spend too much time here. Let's just kind of feel things out. Let's put in, there's no projections over here on Roto Grinders, this lineup builder. So we're just going to hand build. I'm not going to do the optimize. Let's do a Josh Allen captain to start.
Okay.
And then we'll do a Kupp and then we'll mess around with like an A-Rob. All right. So we got to go Kupp in the flex. If you have Josh Allen at captain, yeah, he has the rushing threat, but we're going to have to throw in at least one pass catcher. At minimum, maybe more. So let's see what happens when we put Diggs in. Let's see how screwed we are. 3,500 per slot for 3 slots. It's going to be kind of hard. Can we punt a few times? Like, what do you like having Diggs here, or should we go with more of like a Gabe Davis or the tight end? I don't know. What should we do?
Throw in Tommy Sweeney and see what kind of flexibility that gives us.
Okay.
I just at $400, I think he's going to get some run, man.
So that gives us 10.2K for 2 spots. That's pretty nice.
Okay, and then we need to go.
I mean, you got Zach Moss here as well. This is going to turn out to be a 4-2 potentially. Zach Moss can catch a touchdown.
What about going Henderson from LA?
All right, let's go Henderson. At least with 5,400. So that gets us in the range of, let's see here, that gets us Jamison Crowder, Van Jefferson, the kickers and defense, and then, you got Cook and guys like that below that. So it's not bad. So what I would do in this situation, obviously Sweeney's an absolute punt, but, I've seen plenty of winners, like single taking home the millie with a guy like Tommy Sweeney with like 2 fantasy points, because he's $400. You have a unique lineup and you don't really need a whole lot out of him. I would probably rotate out all these guys, Crowder, Jefferson. I'd rotate out each kicker. I'd end up with like 5 or 6 lineups with this core. And obviously we could switch out Sweeney with somebody else, but not bad. This isn't bad. We can build with Allen, Kupp, and Diggs, but let's try here. Humor me here. Let me just see where we're at if we go with Zach Moss, because not Zach Moss. I'm sorry, James Cook. So that leaves us with 3,900. What's our other punt? in this game that you're comfortable with? McKenzie? I mean, I think
I'm fine with
McKenzie's a
McKenzie.
little bit better than a punt. It's, we don't know what to expect out of him, but so that leaves us with 5,400. That gets us
Same range.
That gets us, we're just shy of Higbee, but this allows us to kind of do the same thing we were just talking about. Crowder, you could actually put Henderson here. This is a decent lineup.
Yeah.
This is, what is this, 4-2? That's not bad. All right, let's move on to Cup at captain and see how screwed we are if we use him at captain. All right, where are we going here? Are we fading Stafford again, or what do you want to do?
Let's fade Allen.
Okay.
Let's run Stafford.
All right.
And then you want to
Diggs?
throw in let's go Diggs. And then I don't hate, this is gonna sound crazy, but go Diggs, go Singletary, and then go Cook.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about, dude. That's what I'm talking about.
What's 1,800? Is that McKenzie?
No, not quite. Not quite. Skowronek and a bunch of scrubs. Tutu Atwell. There's really nobody. I mean, you could go with Tommy Sweeney. A pure punt here, but you could just rotate it out these guys. One thing I would say is switch out Singletary, right? Or what do you think?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, what I was going to say is put in that $200 receiver, Shaquille.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name?
Where's he at? Shakir.
And then can you go from Stafford to Josh Allen.
Yeah, look at that. Okay.
A 1-5. That's crazy, but I like this.
Dude, Cup, 15 receptions. I mean, you never know, man. That's not bad. See, this is the kind of crazy, weird lineup you're going to need with Cup. It just really is. All right, let's do a Rob, and then let's get the hell out of here. Where are you, A Rob? The second. All right. So what do we do here?
Just throw in Cup. Go Cup Allen, and then let's just Cup Allen Diggs. Fuck it. I saved my.
Oh, you got the one F word. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, the one.
It's all right. It's PG-13.
And just to everyone watching, we're working on cleaning up our presentation here, so you can play us while you're cooking dinner or whatever.
Son of a bitch.
All right, 3,600. Throw in your Dalvin Cook's cousin.
Brother. 4,500. That leaves us in the no man's zone here, kind of. Kickers.
Nah, Seabass. Kick
Tyler
his ass,
Bass.
Seabass.
Yeah. And then I would just rotate out this last spot with Matt Gay. McKenzie. It's kind of all there is around this range, to be honest. All right.
If you want to just punt, feel free. Throw in Tommy Sweeney or.
So here, I want to show you guys something real quick, actually. So let's look at this real quick. So after crunching some lineups here, can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. This is the optimal here.
Yeah.
So this is the optimal when it comes to projected points. A-Rob at captain, Cook, Gay. Oh, this is what we just built. Right? Didn't we just build this lineup?
Pretty much, but instead of Gay, we had Seabass. But yeah.
Yeah, but it was similar. It was like rotate out that last position, and this is the last position. Yep. So this is the optimal as of now. Now things are going to change a lot, but man, this is pretty sick. You do have a little bit safer of a lineup here. Diggs at captain, both quarterbacks, A-Rob, Matt Gay. So I think the theme here, my cat's trying to get in my freaking office here. The theme here has got to be, well, most likely these, the kickers are probably going to be higher owned than they really should, just because you're going to have to throw kickers in that last spot. So that could be something to think about. If you can get away from some kickers in this game, 4 extra points is not going to do anything for you if this is a, 28 or 35-28 game or something. It's just not going to really work out. So Ellie, final thoughts here. things that you're going to be thinking about during this week and things you're going to be looking for before we do our next show, probably next Wednesday.
I'll leave it at this statement. Just remember, nothing is final until we get the inactives the Thursday night, right? Everything that happens up until that point is nonsense until we get that information. And then join the Discord. We'll be talking through it.
Yeah, guys. So follow us, join the Discord. That'll be in the description below. And we appreciate it, man. This was a pretty fun show. I'm really excited to get back into this. You're going to be seeing a lot of us. So hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next week, Wednesday, for the full breakdown.